Jai Shrimadji. So today we are cooking for ISPS, that's the International Sahaj Public School. There was a feeling that there's too much Indian food offered at the school, so a lot of our students, our children who come from other countries might find it difficult. So the menu has been changed. It will be an international fare. So there will be food from everywhere in the globe. There'll be Russian food, there'll be some Ukrainian, some Malaysian, some Indonesian, European, some things from the Americas also, tacos, burritos, perhaps even enchiladas. But then of course there will be Indian food also. So it'll be a mixture of everything. It'll be fresh, it'll be healthy, made from scratch, and at the same point of time it will be nutritious and something which will be full of flavor, so children enjoy it and they eat it. So today we will be making two dishes. We will be making a borscht soup, which is Russian Ukrainian in origin, and then we will be making a chicken stroganoff, which is chicken and mushrooms, and that we will serve with a rice pilaf. Now traditionally a stroganoff is served with egg noodles, but in India that's a little more difficult to get, so we can substitute it with a rice pilaf. As we come up with recipes, we have to keep in mind what is easily and readily available in Dharamsala in India, so that sourcing it is simple and easy. One question which I'm going to say to you is, some people have this idea that mushrooms is a no-no in Sahaja Yoga. Not true. I cooked for Shrimadji for many years, and one day I was sitting with her and she said, "You never make mushrooms for me." So next day I made mushrooms. So that's why in the chicken stroganoff traditionally you do have mushrooms, so you will find mushrooms over here. They add flavor to it. So with this, let's start cooking. We'll start with the borscht soup. So to begin with, we have a container here, and to that we will add 2-3 tablespoons of oil. You can use any vegetable oil. You can use a canola oil, you can use corn oil, or you want to use a olive oil. Whichever is easily accessible to you, use that oil. Oil in there, we'll let it warm up for about a minute or so. We have these beetroot. The beets have been grated, so you have to be a medium size, so not a very fine grate, but a medium grate, so like this. And the reason for that is it cooks faster, and you know, when you have it in the soup, it has a nice flavor. So now the oil is getting hot, and so I will add this to the pan, to the container. And now we'll cook this on medium heat for about 7-8 minutes. So right now we'll just let it cook. Softened a little bit. So now what we will be doing is that we will be adding some broth. We'll be adding some chicken broth. And with that also we'll be adding some water, because it's basically a vegetable soup which we are creating. But when you add chicken broth, it adds more flavor to it. If you don't have chicken broth and you just want to make it with water, you can, but then some of the flavor will be different. So you can have fresh chicken broth, or you can use some chicken bouillon, mix it with hot water, and you'll have your chicken broth. So to this we're adding about 8 cups of chicken broth. I've used Knorr to make the broth, but you know, if you have another one which is locally available, if you don't have a fresh broth, or if you can get ready-made broth in the store, you can use that as well. So no restrictions on that. Whatever the directions are from the manufacturer, you use that so that you have a broth which is adequately strong. This soup that we are making will easily feed about 8-10 people, and it'll be a hearty meal. So now I've added this hot stock and I've increased the heat so that it cooks. At the same point of time, we had already diced these carrots. So they are diced like this. So we are adding this to the broth and we let it cook for another 7-8 minutes because the carrots need to become tender and the hardness needs to go away. Also, we took some Yukon potatoes, or you can take regular potatoes. We dice them up like this, and those also we adding to the stock. Now we'll let this come to a boil, and we will let it cook for another 7-8 minutes till the time they become soft and tender. Simultaneously, while this is cooking over here, we will be making what we call as a mirepoix. So what is a mirepoix? A mirepoix is a combination of a few different things. In this case, in the borscht, we have over here red peppers which have been diced. We have some celery which has been chopped, and then we have an onion which has been chopped. So these three things we will be taking in this wok or in a pan. We will be adding some oil to it, a couple of tablespoons of oil, and then oil is starting to get hot. Yep. And so I'm going to add the onions to it. You can hear that little sizzle coming from the onion because oil is hot. So whenever you do that, you always mix it in because the oil should coat the onions. That way they cook faster. And this, we don't have to brown them, but we want it to get a light golden color. So we'll let this cook for about 2 minutes, and then we'll add the celery as well as the bell peppers. In the meantime, you can see that our soup is warming up, and soon it will come to a rolling boil. When that happens, I'll put it to medium heat because at that point of time we just want it to cook, not necessarily keep boiling, but it should be at a steady temperature so that the carrots and the potatoes become soft. This soup doesn't use too many spices, but it does use some bay leaf, and that's really for flavoring. Other than that, what we'll be using to flavor it is, one is salt, then we're using black pepper, we'll use a little bit of mustard, and also we'll use a little bit of Dijon mustard and also vinegar, because the vinegar will give it a little bit of tanginess. Alrighty, so my onions are now becoming a little translucent. Alright, you can see that it's starting to get a little translucent. At this point of time, I'm going to add the celery as well as the red bell peppers. Now we've already verified that these ingredients are available in dharamsala, and so what you're seeing here today is what will actually be made in the school just the same way and served to the students. As you can see, it has a whole variety of fresh vegetables. In there we have the beetroot. You can see this beautiful red color which is coming from the beet. Also it has the potatoes and the carrots, and then over here we have the red peppers, the onions and the celery. All this is going to go into the soup, which really makes it very nice and nutritious, and the children get a lot of fresh fruits, fresh vegetables in their diet, which is always healthy. Also, this will always be made from scratch, so it's going to be fresh, and it's really flavorful. If any one of you are inspired, you can make it in your own homes also, and try it out. So this we'll be cooking for another 3-4 minutes. We wanted to get a little bit of that golden color coming, and then we can add it to the soup. As you can see, it's a very colorful mix of vegetables. After another 2 minutes, I'm going to be adding some ketchup. If you don't have ketchup, you can use some tomato paste, or even a little bit of tomato puree. That little tanginess adds to the flavor of the soup, so that's why we do that. So at this point of time, this is now ready, the mirepoix, and we will be adding this into the soup. So again, you can see it's got beetroots, carrots, and we get this mixture of bell peppers, onions, and celery, and all of it cooked in a nice chicken broth. Okay, so now we will just let it continue to simmer in the soup. We'll let this go on for another 3-4 minutes because the soup is pretty much getting to where it needs to be. And what we will be doing now also is, because this soup also has a couple of other things. Number one, it has white beans. In the US, we're able to get these beans in low sodium. In India, probably they won't get it, but they're able to buy the beans as dry beans, so they will soak them and cook them, just boil them so that they become soft and tender, and then they'll add that to the soup because the beans are a part of the soup and they add a lot of flavor to it. And I'm going to add the contents fully. So essentially they're just beans, and they've been cooked with basically some salt. I'm going to add it with the liquid into the soup. So because it has some sodium, so after I add this and add the other flavorings, we will taste it, and then we'll decide how much sodium means salt that we need to add to it. There's a big controversy these days that you should have no salt in diet or very limited salt, and you should have no sugar in diet or very limited. In Sahaj, it's different. Shimaji's explained very many times that you need salt for your left side and you need sugar for your right side. But that doesn't mean that you have to take, big amounts of sugar. But a certain amount of sugar and salt is required. For the left side, it's used for our network to work, and for the right side, it's used for the body to be able to digest things, for the combustion to happen within. So both of these are important, so don't get stuck in this idea that, no salt, no sodium, very little fat. You need some fat. Your brain is all fat cells. So you need regular natural fats, but limited quantities. Same way you need limited quantities of sugar and salt. In this particular thing, there's no sugar, but here goes our beans. They go into the soup, and they will be an integral part of the soup. So here we go. We've added the beans into the thing, and at this point of time I have the thing on a simmer. Also, we will be adding some garlic to it. Garlic, as you know, is considered to be the ambrosia of gods. It's very good for health. So here we'll just grate it and we'll add it to the soup. If you want to crush it and then just chop it up, you can do it that way. There's no compulsion that it has to be grated, but I'm just showing you an easy way of adding garlic to it. And that, of course, garlic always adds flavor. So that is another thing that we do. There we go. And here we go. Alrighty, so we've got this, we mix it in. Vinegar, and we're using white vinegar, so you can get distilled white vinegar, and you get the natural stuff, so you don't have to use the acetic acid. This also adds flavor. Be adding about, to begin with, I'll add 2 tablespoons, and then I'll taste it and then adjust it so that the flavor is right. One thing with cooking, and this is something which Ramaji would always say and would always tell us, is that whenever you cook, you must taste what you cooked. So I'm just adding the other flavorings. So this one, as you can see, is some Dijon mustard. Mustard, as you know, has its own flavor. In this big pot, I'm adding like a 3/4 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, and it will give its own flavor. So okay, so at this point of time, we've done pretty much, the soup is ready. This soup, when it is served, it's served with some dill, and also it is served with a dollop of sour cream, because that adds flavor. So I'm going to let it cook for another 2-3 minutes, and then we will sample it, adjust the flavorings, and then the soup will be ready to serve, and we'll show you how we serve it also. This is what our soup looks like. You see this beautiful red color. Now I'm adding some black pepper to it. Black pepper you add to whatever flavor you want it. So if you like it strong, you can add more. If you like it less, you add it less. Here's some dill, which will be used as a garnish. Also, dill has its own flavor, so it really adds to the flavor of the soup. So this goes into the soup, and the last thing we add is the sour cream. A dollop of sour cream, and I'm going to have my friend over here taste it. Good?
Wow.